3 reasons why people resist public speaking. The first reason is people fear being judged. Now I know most of us, we don't like to be judged by other people. But here's the thing, how many of us actually know that the audiences are actually judging us? The thing is, we don't like to be judged because we feel that other people might look at our competency, our skill, the way we dress. But most of the time, the audience would not judge you. So that's number 1. People resist public speaking because they don't like to be judged. The second reason is people feel pressure. And the pressure here is mostly on self-pressure, putting the burdens on your own shoulders. Now, quite a while back, when I was preparing for a speech competition, I remembered that I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. I was making sure that I cannot forget my lines. I cannot mess this up. I cannot forget what I want to do when I say this. And what that did to me was to add more pressure. I couldn't sleep for days, and that really messed up my performance. On the day of the presentation, I forgot my lines. I blanked out and I couldn't do it. So that's the thing. Why people resist public speaking is because they may have put pressure onto themselves. The third reason, and that is unfamiliarity. You see, most of us, we resist public speaking because it's unfamiliar to us. We don't want to go on a stage. We don't want to give a speech to an audience that we don't know. So that is probably why people feel so uncomfortable. It's because being on the stage is an unfamiliar feeling for them. Now, if you are feeling one of these 3 reasons, that's okay, because all of us would probably feel that at some point in our lives. But there are 2 ways that we can do to actually improve the way that we present and feel less resistance towards that. The first way, and that is to practice. Practice being on stage. Practice in front of an audience. Practice speaking. The power of practice is it helps us to be more familiar with the audience, with the stage, and to be familiar with our surroundings. You see, when we practice, we get familiar. Just like meeting an old friend. When you meet an old friend, you have been familiar with them. You're best friends. You can talk, you are open. But when you meet a complete stranger, to be open to them, it might take more time. So here's a tip. Number 1, which is to practice. Find avenues, opportunities to practice. There are many out there. Toastmasters, BNI, networking events, speech clubs, anywhere. Find an avenue to practice. The second tip here is less on the I mentality and more on the audience mentality. Now, an I mentality is focusing on me, focusing on what I would do on stage. For example, have you ever went on stage and thought about words like this? What if I mess up? What if I forget my lines? If that is something that you do, don't worry. Most of us has probably done that before. So, what is an audience mentality? An audience mentality is where you focus your presentation on the audience. So you can start thinking about questions like, what can I do to make sure that my audience get the message in the most effective manner? What can I do so that when my audience leave the room, they will remember the message that I wanted to share? So you see, when you switch from I mentality to audience mentality, you start to realize that the pressure you put on yourself is lesser. So the 2 things, number 1, which is on practice. Keep practicing and find an avenue to practice. And number 2, which is remove the I mentality and focus on the audience mentality. My friends, 75% of the world fears public speaking. So my question to you is this: do you want to stay in the 75% or do you want to move to the 25%? The choice is yours.